Sir, stop right there. We need to talk to you.
I need to get to my car. I am freezing. I just pulled a child out of the lake.
That is what we need to discuss. What were you doing with that child in the water?
What was I doing? I was saving him. He was drowning.
The circumstances seem suspicious. Adult male alone with children in a deserted area, child in distress, sir.
A man plunges into freezing water to save a drowning child. He performs CPR, revives the boy, and then is placed under arrest. That man is Andre Washington, 40 years old, a former U.S. Army Ranger with 12 years of service, a Purple Heart, and a Bronze Star with Valor. A veteran who once carried fellow soldiers to safety under fire in Fallujah. Today, he serves as a firefighter and EMT. Yet, after pulling an 11-year-old from 50-degree water, he finds himself in handcuffs. The officer who detained him was Derek Walsh. Public records and past complaints show Walsh had multiple allegations of racial profiling, all reviewed internally and dismissed. Supporters of Washington now believe this case may finally shine a light on those patterns. As body camera footage is reviewed, as witnesses recount what happened, as the child tells his story, and as Washington's service record is presented, questions emerge about bias, accountability, and how repeated complaints against officers are handled. This is the story of how an act of courage became a criminal accusation, how a child's testimony confronted systemic assumptions, and how a decorated veteran was forced to defend an act of pure heroism. Washington's life had already been defined by service. 12 years in the 75th Ranger Regiment, elite missions for deployments across Iraq and Afghanistan. His medals were earned through injury, sacrifice, and refusing to leave anyone behind under fire. In Fallujah, he was wounded by an IED while dragging injured soldiers to safety, bleeding, but refusing to stop until all were secure. Later in Helmand Province, pinned down with his unit and running low on ammo, he held his position until reinforcements arrived, saving more lives. After medically retiring, his service didn't end. He became a firefighter and EMT, praised for staying calm in chaos, for saving lives when it mattered most. One cold March afternoon, Washington went to Riverside Lake seeking peace. The water was frigid, the park nearly empty. Two young boys played too close to the edge. Then came the scream, the kind that signals real danger. Washington sprinted toward it. One boy was struggling in the water, slipping under repeatedly. Without hesitation, Washington shed his jacket, waded into the icy lake, and swam to him. The cold gripped his body. His muscles tensed. But his training took over. He reached the child just in time, pulled him to shore, and began CPR. Moments later, the boy coughed, gasped, and breathed on his own. Shivering, soaked, and trying to get to his car to warm up, a police officer approached. Not to check on the child, not to offer medical assistance, but to investigate. And in that instant, everything changed. Police. We need to speak with you. Andre stops and turns. The uniform comes into view, but the expression on the officer's face isn't concern. Not relief. It's suspicion. Accusation. A look Andre has learned to recognize all too well as a black man in America. I need to get to my car, Andre says, teeth chattering. I'm freezing. I just pulled a child out of the lake. The officer's eyes sweep over him. Soaked clothes. An empty park. White children nearby. In that instant, every assumption in the officer's mind seems to fall into place. That's exactly what we need to discuss, the officer replies. Why were you in the water with that child? Andre freezes, shocked by the question and by the implication behind it. I was saving him, he says. He was drowning. I jumped in and pulled him out. A second officer arrives, younger and less experienced, taking position beside her partner. Her posture mirrors his, tactical, controlled, guarded. The situation appears suspicious, the first officer explains. An adult male alone with children in an isolated area. A distressed child. We need to clarify what happened. This is the pattern critics have warned about. Ordinary situations involving black civilians reframed as potential crimes. A rescue becomes suspicious. An emergency becomes grounds for detainment. Marcus, the other boy, runs forward, panic in his voice. He saved Owen. He was drowning. Why are you stopping him? Step back, the officer says, hand raised. We're handling this. Andre is barely able to stand. His lips are blue, his hands numb. Still, he speaks clearly. I heard screaming, he says. I'm a firefighter. I'm trained in rescue. I responded to an emergency. I saved that child's life. So you didn't know this child before today? The officer asks. No, Andre replies. I've never met him. I was walking and heard someone screaming for help. The officer scribbles notes, doubt showing in his posture. And you just happened to be here when these children were alone. Andre senses the shift. He's no longer seen as a rescuer. Now he's treated like a suspect, someone who caused harm rather than prevented it. Are you accusing me of doing something wrong? He asks. I saved his life. We're investigating, the officer says. An adult male in the water with a child requires scrutiny. Voices rise around them. I saw him pull the kid out. He did CPR. That child was drowning. Someone confirms an ambulance is on the way. But the decision is already made. Sir, the officer says, turn around. Hands behind your back. You're being detained. Andre freezes. Detained for what? Child endangerment. Suspicious contact with a minor. Possible assault. Assault. Andre says, stunned. I performed CPR. I saved his life. Don't make this harder, the officer replies. Marcus breaks down, crying. He didn't do anything wrong. He's a hero, but the handcuffs are already coming out. He saved Owen, yet the handcuffs were still fastened. Officer Chen steps forward and grabs Andre's arm. He's soaked, shivering violently from the cold, still trying to process the shock. In one swift motion, his hands are pulled behind his back. Cold steel snaps around his wrists. Andre Washington, a decorated combat veteran, a firefighter, a man who once pulled wounded soldiers to safety in Fallujah, is now under arrest for rescuing an 11-year-old boy from icy water. Marcus begins crying uncontrollably. The crowd reacts. This isn't right. He saved that kid. But Officer Walsh starts reading Andre his rights as he stands trembling, a mixture of hypothermia, disbelief, and anger coursing through him. Andre glances around. He sees the witnesses, Marcus and Owen, being cared for. And in that moment, it hits him. He saved a child's life, and now he's being punished, not for his actions, but for who he is. Because Officer Derek Walsh has acted this way for years, and nobody stopped him. Andre Washington, 12 years in the Army Rangers. Purple Heart, Bronze Star with Valor. 7 years as a firefighter. He jumped into 50-degree water, performed CPR, saved a child, and was arrested by an officer with a documented history of racial profiling that never faced consequences. At the station, Andre is placed in an interrogation room. He's given a blanket, not out of care, but protocol. Wet, cold, shivering, now cuffed to the table. Detective Karen Sullivan enters. 15 years on the force. She's reviewed the report. Adult male, white child, isolated park, physical contact, suspicious circumstances. She's also seen Walsh's file, 14 complaints, all dismissed. She knows exactly what this is. Another Walsh arrest. Another black man detained under flimsy pretexts. Another case unlikely to hold up, but still processed. Mr. Washington, she begins, tell me what happened at the lake. Andre meets her eyes that have faced combat, loss, and injustice. I rescued a drowning child, he says steadily. And Officer Walsh arrested me for it, because I'm black. Detective Sullivan takes notes. Andre recounts his day. The walk, the scream, the boy in the water, the jump, the CPR, the moment Owen started breathing. That's the whole story, he concludes. And you had never seen these children before, she asks. Never. Sullivan references the report. Officer Walsh called it suspicious. Andre's tone sharpens. Walsh has 14 racial profiling complaints. 14. Every one from black civilians. He sees suspicion where there's none. When he says suspicious, what he really means is black. And I'm his latest example. Detective Sullivan doesn't argue. She knows he's right. Acknowledging it would mean admitting the department ignored Walsh for more than a decade. Did you touch the child? She asks. I pulled him out of freezing water. I did CPR until he was breathing again, Andre says firmly. Yes, I touched him. That's called saving a life. A knock interrupts. An officer whispers to Sullivan, and she steps out, returning moments later. The child is at the hospital, she reports. He's stable. Alive because of your actions. Andre closes his eyes. The other boy, Marcus Hayes, is here with his parents. He's giving a statement confirming you performed the rescue. In another room, Marcus sits beside his parents and a child advocate. Red eyes, steady voice. Owen fell in, he explains. The water was freezing. He was going under. I can't swim well, so I screamed for help. And then, the detective prompts. A man ran over. Didn't ask questions. took off his jacket and shoes, jumped in, pulled Owen out. He wasn't breathing. The man did CPR. He saved him. Did you know this man before today? No, Marcus says firmly. But he saved my friend. Owen wouldn't be alive if that man hadn't acted, Marcus says. The detective turns to him. What happened after Owen started breathing again? He was freezing, Marcus replies, shivering uncontrollably. He said he needed to get warm and started heading toward his car. That's when the police arrived and arrested him. The detective pauses, curious. Why do you think the officer arrested him? Marcus glances at his parents, then back at the detective. His voice is calm, but firm, words that will later form the core of the lawsuit. I think it's because he's black, Marcus says. He saved Owen. He should have been treated like a hero, but the officer treated him like he did something wrong. He didn't. He saved a life. Marcus's mother can't contain herself. My son just told you he saved a child, she says, her voice trembling with anger. Why is he still in custody? Why did an officer with a history of targeting black people arrest him? The detective has no clear answer. Elsewhere, Sergeant Raymond Torres is reviewing the arrest. He recognizes Officer Walsh's name. This isn't Walsh's first questionable stop, but it's the first time the facts are undeniable. Torres runs Andre Washington's record through the system. No warrants. No criminal history. Clean record. Then another detail stands out. Military service. Torres opens the linked file. Everything shifts. United States Army, 2006 to 2018. 12 years active duty. 75th Ranger Regiment. Staff Sergeant. For combat deployments. Purple Heart, Fallujah, 2007. Wounded while saving fellow soldiers. Bronze Star with Valor, Helmand, 2010. Held his position under heavy fire. Additional awards. Honorable Medical Retirement. Current role, firefighter and EMT. 7 years on the job. Multiple bravery commendations. Torres leans back, stunned. Officer Walsh had just arrested a decorated veteran and firefighter for saving a drowning child. He pulls Walsh's personnel file. 14 prior complaints. Same patterns. Same dismissals. All ignored. Torres picks up the phone. We have a major problem, he tells the chief. Walsh arrested a Purple Heart recipient for performing a rescue. This isn't just one bad arrest. This must be addressed immediately. The chief reviews the evidence. Andre's military record, Marcus's statement, civilian witness accounts, medical confirmation of the rescue, and Walsh's complaint history. The decision is clear. This stops now, the chief says. Release Washington. Suspend Walsh pending a full investigation. Reopen all previous complaints. I want to know how this officer remained on duty. Moments later, Andre is escorted from the interrogation room. The cuffs are removed. Detective Sullivan speaks carefully. Mr. Washington, you're free to go. We've confirmed your story. Witnesses corroborated the rescue. The child's friend gave a statement. We apologize. Andre looks at her. An apology, he says quietly. 14 people filed complaints about this officer. 14. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. And your department protected it. Until he arrested someone whose record couldn't be ignored. The room goes silent. Then Sergeant Torres steps forward. Mr. Washington, this is Sergeant Torres. On behalf of the department, I want to say what happened to you was completely wrong. Snorts, Officer Walsh is now suspended while we conduct a full investigation. We're reviewing his past arrests and all complaints filed against him. Your service in the military, your work as a firefighter, and what you did today all reflect your true character. You are a hero, and you should never have been treated otherwise. Andre meets his gaze. I was treated like a criminal just because I am black. My achievements didn't matter. What mattered was that Officer Walsh saw a black man and assumed guilt. And he's been doing this for over a decade. And your department allowed it. He walks out. Outside the station, his wife Simone is waiting. She sees him and rushes to him. He's still wet, cold, and visibly shaken. She hugs him, and the sobs he held back for hours finally break free. I saved a child, and they arrested me. I know. We will fight this. On the drive home, Andre reflects on all he has endured: combat, injuries, personal losses, and service. Yet none of it shielded him from being arrested while being heroic and black. 6 weeks later, the lawsuit is filed. Washington versus City of Riverside, Officer Derek Walsh, Officer Nicole Chin. But this case is different. Andre's lawyer did what should have been done years ago. They compiled all 14 dismissed complaints against Walsh, tracked down every complainant, and uncovered a clear pattern. Bus drivers, professors, nurses, coaches, postal workers, fathers picking up kids. All black, all unfairly detained or arrested. All charges dropped. All internal complaints dismissed. Now, a decorated combat veteran arrested for saving a drowning child highlights the undeniable pattern. The evidence is overwhelming. The city knows it cannot win. Settlement talks take 9 months, but it's clear. $7.8 million total. $1.2 million to Andre for civil rights violations, emotional trauma, and PTSD triggered by the arrest. $6.6 million in punitive damages, not just for Andre, but for the system and the 14 others affected. Officer Derek Walsh is terminated, fired outright, certification revoked, never to serve as a police officer again. Officer Nicole Chin receives a 60-day suspension, bias training, and reassignment. Internal affairs officers who dismissed complaints are reviewed. 3 demoted, 1 fired. Sergeant Torres avoids discipline, but must overhaul complaint reviews and implement an early warning system for officers with recurring complaints. All 14 prior complaints against Walsh are reopened. 7 confirmed as misconduct, 3 resolved through settlements. The system that shielded Walsh is now exposed. Walsh was not just one bad officer. He was part of a system that ignored complaints from black civilians, only taking action when the victim was a decorated veteran performing undeniable heroism. Andre Washington risked his life, saved an 11-year-old boy from drowning, performed CPR, and was arrested by an officer with 14 prior racial profiling complaints who had never faced real consequences, until now. The $7.8 million settlement is significant, but more importantly, it ended Walsh's career, exposed the systemic pattern, and forced accountability. So here's the question. Should cities pay more for shielding officers like Walsh? Should dismissing legitimate complaints carry criminal consequences? Should there be federal tracking for officers with repeated misconduct? Share your thoughts below. This story shows that even military service, even saving a life, even a Purple Heart, doesn't automatically protect against racist policing. But it also proves that patterns can be uncovered, accountability can happen, and fighting back matters. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.